If these don't look like some happy cows, if you want to learn how to get your cows out on pasture, stay tuned. I have some tips coming up for you next. Hey folks, Bill here with Rawlings Farm. Today we will be talking about the practices that we use in order to get the cows ready to move them to spring pasture. We run 2 herds here, so the spring calving cows are ran in the woods during the winter. Part of this is to provide cover when the cows are calving, and the other is to limit their intake during the winter so their calves do not get too big. By keeping them off pasture, this does create an issue when introducing them to pasture because of the potential of grass tetany and overconsumption, which could lead to bloat. So stay tuned and we will go over our practices and how we do our best to prevent these issues. So the first step in preparing your cows for pasture is a good mineral program. And what we do is we use this breeder's mineral that is a high mag mineral. And the reason for using a high mag mineral is to help prevent grass tetany, which is a metabolic disease that is caused by putting cows out on fresh grass that's fastly growing. And it causes disease called grass tetany, which is a imbalance of magnesium. So then your animals die from the deficiency of magnesium. So we feed a high mag mineral to prevent grass tetany and promote cattle health. Now this is also our breeder mineral, and we start feeding this about early February when the cows are starting to calve, so that they'll breed back faster when it comes time to breed. So it fulfills 2 purposes. It helps in our breeding, in our conception rate, and it also helps prevent grass tetany when we turn them out on pasture. And just so you know, I do have a knife, but unrolling it is more convenient. The next step is feeding some high quality hay that the cows are going to consume and fill up on, so when we turn them out on pasture, they don't overconsume the grass. So along with the mineral high in magnesium, we're also going to feed them some high quality hay. So we fed them some nice sorghum sudan grass, and it's a haylage and it smells really sweet. They love it. As you can see, they're gathered around the feeders here. Doesn't look like they like me because they're all at the far one, but this is some good high quality hay that they're going to fill up on, and it gives us time as they're eating. We can go on to step number 3. So when we're going around the fence, there's a couple must-haves that we should take with us. First is a chainsaw for all the trees that might be on the fence. A pair of loppers or hedge trimmers, just in case there's something small that we don't need the chainsaw for. Some insulators for the proper post that you have. So we have a wooden post. So we got some wooden post insulators. Nails for the wooden post. Then we have some of them little round posts. So we have some of the round post insulators, and it's amazing how cheap they make these. They break all the time.
I need the hammer.
Up. Show them. What is it?
I
A hammer. And then another hammer for driving nails. This is more for a little round fence post. A pair of wire cutters. Extra staples for the high tensile wire. Some wire. A crimper for high tensile wire in case we need to splice some back together. That's some of the must-haves for fencing. I'm sure we've missed some. If you can think of something that's a must-have for you, please leave it in the comments section.
When we put in the fence and the water line on the other side of the road, we also had to add electric to that side of the road. So we put the fencer in a toolbox to protect it from the rain. We used a Cyclops with 27 joules of stored energy and 20 joules of output. And this fencer is very hot. It works wonderful to keep the cows in, and it burns the weeds off the fence when time is limited and we don't have time to mow. Be sure to unplug the fence before working on it.
This stream never used to be here. We've had so much rain in the past year that there's water just flowing through the bottom of this pasture. After a couple days it'll dry up, but you can see the erosion, and it's surely wet. We had about an inch and a half of rain last night, and the ground was saturated to begin with, so we'll find another way to get back here to where we need to put up the fence. Okay, we're back here where we need to put up the fence, and we got a windshield on the mule here, so hopefully you can hear me. If not, I'll narrate it later. But we're going to put up some fence along this building, which I guess back in the day you could put a building right on the property line, because this building, if it's not right on the property line, it's like 5 foot off of it. So zoning has surely changed over the years. But we're going to put a temporary strand of electric along the back of the building to jump from the one fence to the other, because we had an underground line, and because it's so wet, when we drive a tractor through there, we crimp the wire, and instead of reburying it as muddy as it is and going through it over again, we're just going to put a little jumper wire across the back of this building so we can get electric from along the road to the other parts of the pasture. So actually we're trying to get the electric to the road. So
in this clip, the wind was a little bit too much for my microphone, but I was talking about how we went around the fence, replacing any insulators that may have been broken or missing, how we put the jumper wire from the high tensile wire to the wire on the other side of the building to get electric along the road, and how we cut all the limbs off of the fence to keep the fence from shorting out. Now it's time to plug the fence back in and test it. When it is time to move the cows to the pasture, we start out by bringing them up an alley on the one side of our property. This will take them up to the barnyard. We gather all the cows in the barnyard before we move them across the road, because we do have to stop traffic. From the barnyard, we move them across the road into a corral before we let them out on pasture. and then we let them out on pasture. Their bellies should be full of hay, so they don't consume as much grass when they first come out on pasture. Usually they'll walk around the fence, get an idea of the perimeter, and then they'll start munching. When you move cows to a new pasture, you should count them to make sure they're all there. After we moved the cows across the road, we noticed that one calf was missing. This was a 2-day-old calf that the mother had hidden in the woods. So after about 45 minutes of looking for this calf, we finally found it hidden in the hay feeder. Here she is reuniting with her mother in the pasture.
Well, I hope you enjoyed today's video. I just turned around and all the cows are like back over the knoll back here, just looking at me like I'm a crazy man talking to myself. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed today's video. I by no means know everything about farming, but I hope that our practices here can be of some value to you. To help prevent grass tetany, and fill them up with some hay before you turn them out so they don't overconsume. And I'll see you next time.